Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our free class today here at Body Positive Works in Saddle River. Before we get started, just a reminder about Body Positive Works that we're here to help. And we have a lot of amazing services here. We have Western therapy, we have Eastern practices, meditation, yoga, Reiki, all kinds of really great stuff happens in this building, and you can really feel it when you're in here. I run retreats here. I obviously do my classes here, my private sessions, and there's just a lot of healing that happens, a lot of really great things that happen here. So I hope that you'll check us out at some point. I put the link in the chat if you want to check out our services, our events, things like that. But anyway, I wanted to welcome everybody. Feel free to use the chat. So if you were on here last week and maybe you were reflecting on something I said, or you might have a question, you want me to clarify something, I encourage you please to type in the chat if you have anything like that. And while I'm providing some time for you guys to shoot some messages in the chat, just a little reminder of what we talked about last week, So the main thing being that meditation is not just this new habit. It's not just some pill that you take, in the morning and forget about. It's how do I relate to my life every single moment? And it really is about cultivating that attention and learning to see really what causes the unnecessary suffering in our lives, which we kind of talked a little bit about it. I call it me world, right? Self-centered thinking, clinging to these thoughts, to these stories, to these perceptions, beliefs, expectations, etc. And our practice is learning to be with things as they are. If you remember from last week, I said, however it is, there's room for it. And that's like the mantra for how I teach and how I approach this practice. And again, too often, spiritual practice, meditation practice, any of these practices that, go in the direction of well-being can sometimes turn into a war with ourselves, where we have the parts that we like, and then we have the parts we're afraid of, or we don't want to look at, or that are too painful or difficult. And we're hoping that our practice will somehow magically get rid of all of these things and we can just have the pleasant parts of the experience. But obviously, that's not how life works, right? You have pleasure and you have pain. It's one coin, just two different sides. You have happiness, you have sadness, right? We have life, we have death. As the famous psalm goes, right? There's a time and place for everything under the sun. And that's a very wise verse that acknowledges that life has both. That acknowledges that life isn't just happiness all the time. Life isn't just success. Life isn't just health and youth. That really all the opposites come along with it. So then the question arises, well, okay, I understand that, but now what? Well, now it's taking that wisdom and then using a practice like meditation or mindfulness to learn to find balance in the middle of it, in the middle of all of it. And where can we take refuge? And we talked about this last week as well. We can take refuge in that silent witness, in the awareness, in that which knows, right? The source of our experience is this consciousness, is this knowing. And it's not some weird airy-fairy thing. It's not some woo-woo thing I'm asking you to believe in. It's literally what's right here now, right? There's something that is aware of the screen you're looking at. There is something aware of the sounds that you're hearing that are coming from my voice. There is something that is aware of the thoughts that are making sense of what I'm saying and reacting to what I'm saying. So this isn't some new belief system. Really, meditation points you to how things are. And that's what I love about the teachings, is that I don't need to believe in anything. I need to look for myself and see what's true, and then line myself up with what's true and live in a way that's in harmony with what's true, that causes the least amount of harm and that brings the most use into this world. So it's a lot more than we think it is. And I hope that if you joined us last week, I really got that point across to you. And as promised, today I wanted to introduce what I call ARC, which is my acronym that I created for what are we doing with this practice? Why are we doing it? How do we do it? So I'm going to introduce ARC, and then we're going to do a meditation based on it. So ARC stands for 3 simple words that you've heard before: awareness, relaxation, and kindness. Now, these are common words, but I have very specific ways of defining them as far as this practice is concerned. So I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to spend a lot of time on awareness because there's a lot to cover there. But we're going to go through each one. Obviously, again, use the chat. You have a question, you want to share a comment, you think something's great, you think something doesn't make sense, whatever. Put it in the chat, please. I want this to be interactive. Otherwise, I'm just staring at a screen and not sure if anyone's listening. I did see a like, so I appreciate that. So the first letter of this acronym, A, stands for awareness. And as we kind of touched upon last time, awareness is the key to this practice. And I will tell you this: if you understand that awareness is the main goal of practice, you will get rid of a lot of unnecessary struggling with meditation practice, right? First and foremost, people sit down and they're like, okay, I'm going to calm my mind. And they go to count their breath or whatever, and they find a mind that's completely untrained, that's jumping all over the place, that's obsessing about this thing they can't change. It's worrying about this problem that may happen. That's, remembering an argument that you had the other day. And you sit there and you're like, man, like, this practice stinks. Like, I can't quiet my mind at all. This doesn't work. And I can't tell you how many people have said that to me. That I try to bring up meditation to everyone I talk about. I have tattoos everywhere that imply meditation in some kind of way. So I always have something to start a conversation about. And so many people are like, yeah, I tried it, but it's just not for me. Or, I can't stop my mind or whatever. There's all these excuses. And the excuses are based in an understanding that's not accurate, right? So if we just understand meditation simply as the ability to pay attention to the unfolding of our experience without getting sucked up into it, without getting caught in our self-centered thoughts about it, judging, having the expectations, hoping, fearing, all of the things that the mind does, well, then that's practice, right? Just be where you are and notice what's happening without getting caught, from a place of openness, from a place of ease, from a place of clarity. And then, so this way, you can't mess it up. And really the only way you could, quote unquote, mess it up is by not paying attention, which happens, right? We have this awareness, it's open, and then our attention just jumps to a thought. And then we're all of a sudden in this fantasy in our mind. We're in a dream, a waking dream. That doesn't mean you're bad at meditating. That's just what the mind does. The attention jumps around and it jumps into a thought. It gets lost into a dream. And all you have to do is recognize that you're in that thought stream and then come back to just simply recognizing this is the moment. Right? It's literally that simple. So either you're paying attention or you're not. And if you're not, well, as soon as you recognize, you just start paying attention again. Don't make this complicated. It's really simple. And really the key to awareness is the fact that awareness is always present. It's like, the sun is always shining. Whether we're, facing the sun or turned away from the sun, whether there's clouds or anything blocking the sun is always shining without effort, right? It's not like we have to turn it on every day. It's just there and it's It's doing its thing, which is shining. And it's the same with awareness. We don't need to turn it on. We don't need to cultivate it. We don't need to gain it or access it, right? Here it is. And you have it now. There's something that knows you're sitting here listening to a class. That's awareness. And if there's sensations in your bodies, well, it's awareness that recognizes those sensations. The sound of my voice, it's awareness that recognizes sounds are coming and going. And if your mind is filled up with thoughts, well, it's the awareness that recognizes that the mind is filled up with thoughts. So this is what they call effortless effort, right? We have to make an effort to come back to that effortless quality of awareness. So it's this effortless effort. It sounds paradoxical, but it's really what's happening. So awareness. Why do we want to be aware? Great question. Why mindfulness? Why do I want to sit down and pay attention to my life the way it is? Well, first of all, this is it. And if you leave with just those 3 words, I think that can give you a lot of wisdom to reflect on for the rest of your life. This is it. There's no other time. There's no other place. Your life is right here. It's not yesterday. It's not later tonight. It's not tomorrow. It's not earlier this morning. It's not 5 minutes ago. Your actual life, the only place that you can live, the only place you can experience anything is right here. Right here. And how often are we actually touching our actual life? When we're driving to work, when we're, walking down the hallway, when we're just anywhere. How often are we experiencing the 5 senses? How often are we fully present, feeling the breeze on our face, smelling the spring air, feeling the warmth of the sun, hearing the birds, hearing the cars, knowing what we're, what's going on in our hearts and in our minds? How often? Most of the time we probably don't even recognize how we even got to work, let alone what was going on during that drive. We were so caught in, I have to get this report done, and oh man, I'm going to have to see this person, and they've been such a pain in the butt lately, and oh my God, I'm so stressed out, my life sucks, blah, 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 blah. You didn't even recognize you were driving. So what I love about meditation is that it literally gives you your life back. Because our life is passing by. And every single day that passes, right, it's already been a week since our last class, 7 days gone, never to come back. 7 days closer to not having a body anymore, to not having a mind, to not being able to experience this extraordinary thing we call life. And we don't think like that, especially here in the States, in America, in the West. We don't think about death and dying. We think aging and dying, that we think that that's like a disease that we can cure. If I just eat enough kale or put enough cream on my face or whatever it is they're selling now. We look at it as a problem, not a natural process of life. And so we kind of live in a state of ignorance. I'll start meditation in a couple of years once I retire. You might not be here in a couple of years. I'll follow my heart once everything settles down. I'll follow my passion. You might not have that opportunity. All you have is now, and there's no guarantee. And this isn't meant to scare you. It might scare you. It's not meant to scare you. It's meant for you to really look at how things are. Life is uncertain. Life can change. So how am I living? Is it in line with my deepest, wishes? Is it in line with my heart? Is it in line with my values? What's important? Many people don't ask that question until they're lying on their deathbed, and then it's too late. One of the biggest regrets on the deathbed is I should have lived for me. And I don't mean like self-centered, like me, but I should have followed my heart. I should have done what I knew I was supposed to do in this life. Live for me, not for my parents, not what society tells me, but to live in a way where this is the direction of my life. So let me break down awareness, right? So why awareness? Because this is it. And why awareness again? Well, if we want to be free from our suffering, we first have to see the process. What causes it? How do I get involved in these thoughts and feelings? And how do I go from just having a moment of experience to having this terrible life, to being a worried person? Like, what's the process of that? And what's actually going on that's causing the suffering? What makes an unwanted experience unwanted? My, students in my class are probably sick of hearing me say that, but it's such an important question. What makes an unwanted experience unwanted? What makes a difficult day a bad life? What makes an ache in the body a problem? What makes aging wrong, right? So a really important question. And if we don't pay attention, we don't get the answers, right? So awareness is so important. So I want to break it down, like I said, into 5 different, categories or aspects. And you'll see that not only are these the qualities of awareness, but they're also the how-to. How do I pay attention, right? So the first one is an intentional paying attention. So awareness is an intentional paying attention to the moment-to-moment unfolding of experience. So it's bringing your attention, which is normally scattered all over the place, and you're bringing it here to this moment, to the 5 senses. You will notice the 6th sense, which is not talking to dead people, but which is thoughts, right? Thoughts and emotions are kind of in the middle of there, of that physical and mental. But so we have the 5 senses, which you guys know, plus the 6th sense, which is just thoughts coming and going. And we want to pay attention to that. And I've changed this definition over the past year or so, because intentionally paying attention almost implies like I have to do something. I have to strain. I have to try to intentionally pay attention. And the reality is, like I said before, awareness is always present. So it's not that you have to try. You just need to come back to what's already happening. So you consciously participate in awareness, or you could say intentionally pay attention, right? So that's the first quality of awareness, or the definition of awareness. But again, it's also, how do I do it? So how do I start practicing awareness? Step 1, start paying attention, right? So that's simple. What's happening in this moment? Take a look, take a step back from yourself and look at your thoughts, look at your feelings, look at the body, hear the sounds, notice the sights, etc. The second quality, the second step, is non-judgmental attention. So this awareness is intentional. This awareness is non-judgmental. And what is judgments, right? What are expectations, right? That's self-centered thinking. That's the answer to the question, what makes an unwanted experience unwanted? Self-centered thinking, right? If I'm sitting here and the air conditioner is blowing on me and it starts to get cold, the truth of that moment is just coldness, the sensation of cold, maybe slightly unpleasant. But then the mind comes along, me world, self-centered thinking. I don't like being cold. I don't want to be cold anymore. Maybe I should get up. Maybe I should turn it off. I knew I should have had a jacket. What's wrong with me? I'm so stupid. I know it gets good. Do you see the difference? There's the truth of the moment. There's life itself, the actual experience, coldness. And then there's all this suffering and all this unnecessary nonsense. Yet that's what we get involved with, the dream, not the reality. So awareness, intentionally paying attention, shifting from self-centered to life-centered, without the normal judgments, without the storylines, without the expectations. We learn to just see things as they are, without pushing or pulling, without holding on or pushing away. Awareness has a sense of warmth. And that's the third quality, the third step. So I intentionally pay attention. I let go of myself. I let go of the judgments and the whining and the complaining. And then I bring a sense of friendliness, a sense of warmth. Maybe I put a little smile on my face, not to pretend I'm happy if I'm not, but just to bring a general sense of friendliness, a sense of warmth to this body and mind, however it's showing up. The fourth one is curiosity, and this is really important. Curiosity plays a huge role in freedom, right? In ease, in all of this, because curiosity implies that we're willing to look and we're actually looking deeply. So if I say I'm a worried person, what does that mean? Right? Let me become curious about that. How can I be a worried person? I'm not always worried. Right? What about when worry is not arising in my mind, or I'm not feeling the squeezing of worry? What am I then? Do I disappear? Right? No. And then we start to see, okay, maybe I'm not a worried person, but I have a mind that is inclined or habituated toward worry. Let me be curious about that. What's going on here? Why do I keep indulging in this? What is it giving me? What am I getting out of it? What am I avoiding by indulging in it, right? So curiosity is such an important part of the meditation practice, because you can't free yourself if you're not willing to look and explore. Otherwise, you just assume, this is how I am. That's the end of the story. And you live unhappily ever after the same way you've been living your whole life. But again, if we're curious, then we could start to see, well, maybe I'm not a worried person. Maybe I just have this tendency, for whatever reason, whatever happened in my life, my mind created this habit, and I can start working with that habit. I can change my relationship to that habit, which will ultimately change the habit itself, which will change your life, the direction of your life, what you're living for, and all that fun stuff, right? So curiosity, really important. And then 5 is just the willingness to be here. So this awareness is about willing to show up to your life no matter what. And when we practice this on our cushion or chair every day, when we sit for 10 or 20 minutes, it starts eventually to become the attitude, excuse me, it starts to become the attitude for daily life. And then challenges start arising in our lives, and we're willing to stay, right? Because think about what is suffering, right? Believing in these two thoughts: something's wrong, something's missing. And we get so entangled in that. Something's here, I don't like it. Something's wrong with my life. It shouldn't be this way. But it is that way. That's how it is right now. But we believe it shouldn't be that way. And there's a war, there's struggle, there's conflict with reality. The same thing is, something's missing. I just don't feel the way I think I'm supposed to be feeling. Well, what are you supposed to be feeling? And who said you're supposed to be feeling that way? Right? Again, but we just get lost in this. Something's missing. Something's wrong. And again, we're just constantly running away from reality or struggling with reality. And there's no peace there. Why? Because this is it. And you can't have peace anywhere but here. So if you're fighting reality or running from reality, you will never be at ease, because this is it. There's no other place. There's no other time, literally. No matter how much you jump around, spin around, scream, shake your fists, you're still right here with your life the way it is. And whether you like it or not, it's the way it is. We can influence it, sure. And we can also embrace it and open to it and find a deep sense of ease, a profound okayness, no matter what. So that's the 5, qualities or whatever of awareness, right? So intentional paying attention without judgment, with a sense of warmth, curiosity, and a willingness to be here. How do I practice that, you might be asking? You intentionally pay attention. You let go of your judgments momentarily. You bring a sense of friendliness, compassion, and warmth. You become curious about the experience you're having. And you allow yourself to be willing to experience and face whatever might arise. So that's the A in ARC. The R stands for relaxation. Now, yes, part of relaxation is de-stressing, but that is just one tiny little part of what I'm talking about. You will get de-stressing if you practice meditation, but I don't think that should be the main goal. I think that's like the snow on the tip of the iceberg of this practice. You get it, it's fine, but I don't think it's the number one thing. Is it good for your health? Sure, right? Is it good for your mental health and emotional health? Of course. But for me, when I say relaxation, I'm specifically talking about softening into our lives, especially the places that are uncomfortable, right? So another way to put this, expanding your window of tolerance for what you're capable of being with. Because what causes problems, right? What causes an addiction? What causes suicide? What causes someone to lash out and punch somebody or kill somebody or do something wild, steal, anything, right? It's the inability to be present with what we're experiencing. And we don't ever think that way. We just think that person is the problem. But the truth is, that person's only a problem because we don't like the way we feel when we're around that person. It's our inability to be able to be present with what we're feeling. That's why we take that drink. That's why we smoke pot. That's why we reach for Haagen-Dazs. That's why we put on Netflix, because we can't stand what we're feeling. And we feel like we need something to bring us a sense of relief. And this is where the problems start. So we can go straight to the problem. If I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling sad, stressed, depressed, I can go straight to the feeling itself, and I can make friends with that. And what does that do? Well, that prevents the mind from having to run away. If I make friends with my anxiety, then I don't need to try so hard to get rid of it. I don't need to struggle with it. I don't need to try to escape it. I don't need to do something unskillful to bring some temporary relief. I understand that anxiety changes and ends, just like everything in this life. I understand that because it changes and ends, it's ultimately not who I am. And I don't need to grasp onto it. I don't need to make a story about it. I don't need to call myself an anxious person. I don't need to run away or take that drink. I can just feel this unpleasant sensation until it decides to change and bring some friendliness. So relaxing in to the moment no matter what. That's what equanimity is. That's what we're really looking for, a sense of balance, a sense of ease, a sense of equanimity, a sense of openness or spaciousness no matter what. And how do you do that? Well, you practice it. You practice it. When you sit in meditation throughout the day, moments of just pausing, like we talked about last week, hand to the heart, and just experiencing the moment, right? So that's the art. We're learning to really welcome that which we normally wouldn't welcome. And in doing that, our window of tolerance gets larger over time and larger. And then in that process, we find stability, we find balance, we find ease. So even if there is frustration or stress or anger or an addictive craving or grief, sadness, whatever it might be, well, we've been with it. We've made friends with it. We know what it feels like. We know how long it lasts. And we just have this very free and open relationship to it. And it causes less harm for ourselves because we're not indulging in harmful or unskillful ways of relating to it. So that's the R. And then the K is just kindness. And for me, kindness stands for this unconditional friendliness that we bring, this radical acceptance that we bring to our lives. And when we sit in meditation, we let things be the way they are. And that's the unconditional friendliness. And, there's a lot of stuff out there like Louise Hay type stuff where it's like, look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. I love myself in every possible way. And to me, that I don't find that to be helpful because people don't feel that way. So to just say that is almost like painting a prison with rainbows and unicorns. It doesn't really help, to be honest, I don't think. But to be able to just hold that with a sense of warmth, with some compassion. Oh, this is self-hatred. Here you are. Wow, this feels really painful. And to just let it be there. That's where healing starts to occur. Just like when you get a cut, your body heals itself. If you just put a Band-Aid on it, you take care of it, you leave it alone, you don't bother it, body will heal it. Same thing. What was that? A bug. Same thing with our emotions, with our emotional wounds, our mental wounds. We just have to give them the space and the time. And we have to consciously go into them. And that's like putting that Band-Aid on it, is bringing that loving awareness, that silent witness that can just bear witness to that experience without making it wrong, without having aversion to it. And that's really what's so helpful. So that's the K. Now I want to make sure we get to practice. So we're going to do something, just a short one based on arc. So I want you to get into a comfortable seated position, hands on your knees or in your lap, sit up tall, close the eyes. So if you're wondering, Mark, how do I do this? Well, just go through the process, right? So first, awareness. Step one, intentionally begin to pay attention. So just sit here. Notice what you hear. Notice what you feel. Notice what your mind is doing. What your breathing is like. What mood you're in. How is life showing up for you? And then you begin to start the next step. So as you're intentionally paying attention, you let go of any judgments. So even if something is unpleasant or painful, even if something is not exactly the way you hoped it would be, see if you can let that go. And observe your body and mind as if you were, sitting in nature, observing the birds flying around, the fish swimming, the leaves blowing in the wind. Just kind of watching the dance and play of life. And bring a sense of warmth. Step 3. Put a little smile on your face. And we're not pretending to be happy. We're just bringing warmth to whatever we're experiencing. And with that warmth also, add the curiosity. What is it like to be a human being? What is it like to have a body that breathes? What's it like to have a mind that's always thinking, planning? What's it like to be a conscious being? And you answer that with a direct experience. What is a thought? Let me look at my mind. What is this thing that drives me nuts every day? Where is it? Where do these thoughts come from? Where do they go? Right? We have to be curious. And then this curiosity kind of helps us embody this willingness to be here. If I'm willing to look, I'm willing to be here. I'm willing to see what's present in my body, heart, and mind without running away, without hoping for something else. And that lets go of the struggle, the resistance. It saves a lot of energy. And then we add the relaxation, right? So just deepen your breathing a little. That's the first step. The easiest way to relax is just deepen your breath. You don't have to be crazy about it. Just in the nose, out the nose, or possibly in the nose, out the mouth if you want. Whatever's relaxing for you. And soften the body. So as you breathe out, see if you can just, like ice melting to water, every exhale. And then from this relaxed space, we move to the K, kindness. And how do we practice that? Again, allowing everything to be the way it is. We don't need to pretend like we love the moment. We can just hold the moment as it is. And that's enough for compassion. That's enough to start planting the seeds of warmth and compassion and kindness. So however it is, your mind's agitated, agitated mind. Good to see you. If you're feeling anxious right now or stressed, oh, anxiety, hi, have a seat with us. Come take a deep breath with me. It's always good to see you, right? That's the kind of friendliness we're cultivating. So just try to sit like that just for a minute. And then from here, let's bring one hand to the center of the chest, one hand to the belly, and feel that literal warmth. And sometimes, especially if there's people that have a lot of self-hatred, just feeling the warmth of your hands, again, can be that first step in the direction of loving kindness and compassion. So feel the warmth. And then all together, we can take the biggest breath of the day, breathing in through the nose and out the mouth. And when you're ready, you can drop your hands and slowly open the eyes. So again, really important, especially if you feel maybe a little more relaxed, a little more present, a little more at ease, to recognize that you have the same life you started this class with. So nothing about your life changed. The only thing that changed was how you chose to relate to that life for a few moments. And that gift is available to you, to all of you, any moment. I didn't do anything. I just told you to pay attention, to let go of judgments, to bring some warmth, right? I just walked you through ARC, and that's it, right? So you have the capability to be at ease no matter what. That doesn't mean you feel good all the time, but there is a space, there is that place of awareness you can take refuge in, and you can always get in touch with that profound okayness. And it's just like becoming nobody, right? Just being that spacious awareness. There's something so freeing about that. It's almost immediate, right? As soon as you become awareness, you're not struggling, you're not resisting, you're not the thoughts, you're not the feelings, you're this open and free, knowing quality of mind, of life, whatever you want to call it. So I hope this was helpful. Now you can kind of go back, to your lives and remember, well, how do I practice? Oh, ARC. So whether I'm sitting formally in meditation or I'm out in the world, on the bus to work, at work, dealing with a stressful situation, how do I practice? Oh, ARC, awareness. All right, let me start noticing what's happening. Let me let go of my judgments for a moment. Let me bring a sense of warmth. Let me be curious. Why is this so triggering? Why am I getting so upset about this? And what is actually happening? Okay, there's sensations, there's thoughts. Why do I need to get involved with these things? Why do they need to live in my life? Right? So we get involved with ARC, and we bring it to practice every moment of our lives. And then, of course, formally sitting for 5, 10, 20 minutes a day. So I hope this helps. And maybe next week we'll talk about more of the, how do I live this off the cushion, right? So ARC is one way, but, there's plenty more where that came from. So happy to have you guys on here. I'd love to see you maybe in person or, on one of my classes that I do. So feel free to reach out to us at bodypositiveworks.com. You can sign up for our mindful living community, which is right after this at 7:00. And it's a really nice group, a lot of sharing, a lot of teachings, a lot of meditation practice. How do I implement this into my life? That's really what we kind of talk about. And we support each other throughout. We support our practice. We support each other as we go through difficulties in our lives. It's a really nice space. So stay connected. I hope to see you all next week. Feel free to bring a friend. And I hope you'll check us out and maybe, join us for a class or maybe even a private session in person. So thank you guys. Have a great night.